Welcome to the Outer Realms with Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday night segment of The Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live on United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee who have been a part of the Outer Realm journey since pretty much the very beginning, at least of our New Orleans adventure. So thank you. We appreciate you so much. Also, big thank you to Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, aka Justin Snicker, for his contribution of our intro and our outro. It is his music you hear, his voice you hear, the whole 9 yards. So you can find his music anywhere that good music can be found, especially if you're a fan of Halloween horror and sci-fi, dark wave electronic music. And he is a winning composer of all these genres. So check him out. Also, thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind the artwork of The Outer Realm. So again, big thank you. You can find him on Instagram and Facebook. Get yourself a commission piece or check out what he's got. Also, amazing horror artist who's got phenomenal stuff. So go seek him out. Tonight, the Outer Realm's going back to its roots. And we had to welcome back our very dear friend and my colleague, Jack Kenna. You guys will probably know him from Haunted Case Files and Paranormal Survivor, amongst other productions. So we're going to get to have a little reunion, catch up, and see what he's been up to. And it may just not be what you think. Ha! Bet you didn't see that coming. So here we go. Jack, how's it going?
Hey!
How's it going? I like saying that. Jack.
Michelle, it's so great to see you again. I haven't seen you in 2 minutes.
I know, 10 minutes. I know, right? Hey, Doreen.
Actually, we haven't seen each other in a very long time. We haven't seen each other.
No, it's true.
Time.
When was the last time you were here? You were here.
Oh my God, it was probably 2018.
Yeah. It has been.
It was before the pandemic. Yeah, it was before the pandemic.
It was.
Yeah.
That it doesn't seem like that long ago. A whole world away, wasn't it? So.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. A lifetime ago. Yeah.
Oh,
Half a lifetime.
That's Wayne. That's Uncle Jack.
There's Wayne. Hey, we got Wayne out there. I gotta come back up. And we got to go do some metal detecting.
Yes, you better do it quick too, because you'll have a little bit of time for sure in the beginning.
We can go someplace. I know what's going on. You told me. I'm gonna miss your place though.
I know.
Even though I was only there once, I'm gonna miss it. Yeah.
It is a really unique location for sure. Great to see you, Jack. There we go.
Like, yes, wait, I remember what we found. That was pretty cool.
Gosh,
I thought you thought it was a bayonet, though. I thought I knew what it was. I guess I don't know.
And I was like, yeah. I know. Amelia says hi too. She's sorry she couldn't make it, but her daughter just and her husband actually went through a kidney transplant. Her husband donated his kidney to their daughter. Yeah, everybody's at home in recovery, but she's a nursemaid and a mom and a wife and just doing what she's got to do to get everybody healthy, and then she'll be back. So
absolutely. So they're in my prayers and stuff, and I'm sure prayers of quite a few of your fans out there. And
Oh yeah, people say, "Where's Amelia?" People have been offering to fill her seat. I'm like, I don't know. We should be thinking about that. It'll be very hostile. We call her Bubble.
She's a while, maybe somebody help out once in a while,
Exactly. She may be like small and cute and bubbly, but oh boy.
And let her pick who that is to fill it once in a while.
Oh yeah, we're having a lot of fun. So what the heck have you been up to? My gosh.
Absolutely nothing. I've done nothing. I don't do anything. I sit home and I work from home. That is true. I do work from home now full time.
Yeah. That's really nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
actually.
Well, I don't think a lot of people know. I actually have COPD.
Oh,
So it's causes me some issues and problems. So I've been able
mm,
to work it out with work. So I work from home, which is easy because I
right,
just work on the computer anyway. It's digital paperwork. That's what I do.
right.
So
Digital
so
paperwork. Hold on, I've got to edit
digital.
this.
That's how I call. That's what I call it these days. So I can sit in front of my computer and I can work and do what I got to do, and it's all good.
Right.
So,
Well, that's nice though,
but no,
because
other
people would
actually,
like really, really enjoy working from home, right?
I have actually, and actually, it has benefited me with work too. I've been actually able to get a lot more done, do a lot more stuff, and it's all
Right.
worked out really well. So, but no, I have been busy. I've still been teaching my courses at like a couple local colleges since 2019. So
Right.
we did skip 2020 because of the pandemic, but
Right.
Barry Marks, I see Barry's out there.
Yeah.
That's one of
Right.
my old followers too. So cool. That I know my buddy
Yeah.
Ken is
S-
one of the guys that heads the investigations on the USS Salem, just so you know, out
Oh,
in
that's nice.
out in
That's
Quincy,
nice.
Massachusetts. That's a great actually place to investigate if you've never been there and you want to experience a lot of activity. The USS Salem, that Navy ship is an excellent place to go.
Oh, that
It
would
really is.
be, I would love to do it.
I've seen figures on there. I've heard disembodied voices right next to me many times. Many, not just once, many times. You know, every time I
Wow.
go on there, there's experiences of all kinds. You know,
Wow.
so it's a really interesting place.
Oh, I
Actually,
can
it is
imagine.
something I've been talking about holding one of my courses out there. So
Ooh, so tell us about your courses. Tell us about that. What does that involve?
yeah,
Where do you
like I
do
said, I've
them?
been teaching. I teach. I started off with a Paranormal 101 course, which I
Mm,
started in 2019 with that. I taught at Hudson Valley Community College, which is my old alma mater, where I graduated from. So it's probably one of the
right.
reasons they let me have it.
Right.
You know, because nobody ever did this at any of the colleges, local colleges. So I'm like, I
Right.
wonder how they'll. I reached out to them. I wasn't sure how they'd go for it, and they actually were excited about it. So I'm like, oh,
Wow.
okay, cool. I'm expecting that.
That's
So
really cool though, that they would be so
yeah.
established and esteemed and actually take the chance and venture outside the box, you know what I
They
mean?
did. They said, "Well,
So,
try it. Yeah, it sounds really interesting. Let's try it." And I actually do teach it. Um, uh, my book, Paranormal Research: A Comprehensive
hi
Guide to
Jack,
Building a
hi
Strong
Michelle.
Team. I wrote that
Hi Bob.
back in 2019 or 2018. Excuse me.
Right.
Um, it got published in 2018. So that's actually the book I used to teach with. And actually, I
Oh,
wrote it. Believe it or not, I wrote it for that purpose, hoping someday I would be able to teach a course with it.
wow, now look
And
at you
so
go.
yeah, when Hudson Valley let me do it. It's like, "Oh, hey, cool." So it's a basic, basic introductory course, but we do an investigation during it, and, actually, some of the people who are on here tonight have actually taken that course. Some of your followers on there have been taking my
Very
course.
nice. That's all
So,
right. File on
yeah,
in.
yeah, yeah. Bob Maloney there just popped out. Bob's one of them. Bob's taking my course.
Yeah.
And so for 2019, 2021, and then this past year, 2022, I've taught that course, the 101 course. And now this year, 2023, I finally finished working on what we're calling an advanced course, um,
Oh,
which will take it into a little bit more of the next level, not just talking about the basics of equipment and how to talk to spirits and stuff like that, but getting into more of the metaphysical stuff of protection and more detailed.
oh. So
I mean, I cover a
you're
little of
going
that.
deep, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I cover a
Right,
little bit of that in the 101 course, but now
right,
we're really getting into it. We're in class, we're actually going to practice some of these techniques
right.
and work on them as well as divining rods and how to use them and properly use them and what they are used for even to this day and things like that. So we're going to cover a lot more stuff, a
Wow.
lot more details in more high-end equipment, stuff like that, thermal
Mhm.
imagers and all that good stuff, SLS cameras, all that stuff. So we're going to cover a lot more stuff. It's going to be a little bit longer course instead of five weeks. It's actually 1 day a week for 5 weeks
Mhm.
as a 101 course. This will
Right.
be 8 weeks, 1 day a week with two investigations rather than just one.
Oh, that'll
At,
be fun.
yeah, we're doing those at a couple of local historical places. Um, uh, not everybody will know about these, but you can look them up. The Shaker Heritage Society, which is where the Shakers
Right.
originally
Very
lived and
cool.
stuff. Okay,
Yes.
that's one of the
Yes.
sites which we actually were able to investigate just back in December. We went back and just checked it out and investigated, and a lot of activity there. And then one place that I never thought would let me do it is Proctor's Theater in Schenectady. Very well-known theater. They do a lot of like Broadway shows as well as off-Broadway shows, stuff like that here in Schenectady, New York. And it's been around for a long time. It's known to be haunted, but they've never let anybody, as far as I know, in there. But they're letting
Wow.
me.
Well, look at
So
you
they're
go, Miss
actually really
McKenna.
excited. Yeah, and they're
You
actually really
snoop.
excited about it, which shocked me. It's
I
like,
know.
you're actually going to let me do this? It was like,
I was
they're
like,
like, yeah,
for
yeah,
real?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I know.
I never thought they'd let anybody in there, but they're excited about doing it. And it could be
Well, I
because I'm
think
doing it
it
with the
helps
college and stuff.
too. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think because
Yeah,
if the colleges are using you to teach this, then
yeah,
for some reason they look at it probably as being a bit more legitimate. Like, it's
yeah,
the same
yeah.
thing you would
It's
think you were
true. That
just
is true.
investigating, but it does. It's a different sort of stigma, right?
It
Um,
is. It is.
Cape Haunts,
So we're going to be doing
hello.
those. Okay.
Are your courses online? If so, what is the website? I don't know, Jack. Have you thought about doing online courses as well?
Yeah, I've thought about it, but I mean, I might put the 101 course online, but realistically, for me, that's one reason I didn't do it in 2020. I could have taught it online in 2020 through the college, but you have to have that investigation piece. To
Right.
me, you have to have that. You have to do it in order to
Yeah.
really learn. I
Right.
mean, I can do an online course. I'm not really excited about doing it that way. I'd rather have people in front of me. We
Right.
learn together, we do it. But I know there is a lot of people asking me that. And so I am thinking about and trying to figure out a way to do an online course. I am going
Right.
to try to take it up to a couple other states, though, where I can do it over a long weekend.
Wow, that would be
Condense it a little bit and
fun.
do it on a long weekend because I got to work still
Yeah,
for a living. So I can't spend a month in
that
another
would
state,
be fun, though. Just drag it
Yeah,
along.
yeah. So
Yeah,
we're looking at
right.
that. Yeah, so
S-
we're looking at doing that. We're actually going to try that up in Massachusetts this year. So it'll be during the summer. But the
Yeah.
online thing, I'm still thinking about it. A lot of people are bugging me about it.
So it's like a summer
We'll
class
see.
for all the misbehaving who didn't like
Yeah,
pass your
yeah,
grade.
yeah,
Just a
yeah.
summer
The
school
summer
people.
school,
Everybody be like,
paranormal
oh, that's
summer
too
school.
bad.
Yeah,
Yeah, because they just couldn't get it
paranormal
so they
summer
can
school.
go. I know.
Yeah. Well, the reason I got to do if I go out of state to do it, the reason I got to do that is because in the spring and fall is when I'm doing them at the colleges here.
Right.
So
Yes.
I can't do everything. I can't do everything.
Right.
So
So you
yeah,
do it
yeah.
twice
So
twice a term, I get, or once like twice a year,
yeah, so
2 terms.
right,
Okay.
right. And to be able to take the advanced course, you have to have taken the 101 course.
Right.
Because there is stuff that leads into that, and
Of
it's
course.
better if you do it that way.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing is like this spring, the 101 course is being offered at Schenectady County Community College over in
Right.
Schenectady, and the advanced course will be offered at Hudson Valley because we just did the 101 course at Hudson Valley this past fall. All
Right.
right, so now those people and other people who've taken it before can take the advanced course in the spring.
Right.
Take the 101 course in the spring if you haven't taken the course before, and then in the fall we'll switch it around.
Right.
So the advanced course will be at SUNY Schenectady, and the 101 course will be at Hudson Valley. So
Right.
they can perpetuate themselves if people are interested.
Yeah, I think it's
Um,
fantastic, and I love that these
yeah,
locations are
yeah,
getting involved as well.
and I do limit it to 16 people. So
Right. So
I
not
won't do
too
more
big.
than that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want it to get too big and it gets kind of out of hand, and
Well,
and
it
it's
gets
hard
tough
to
because
do
there's only
investigations
one
that way.
Jack.
There's only one me. Yes, this is
Right.
true.
Right.
But you
Yes.
can only fit so many people into these locations to investigate too.
Right.
So
I'm
and
sure
you've
you'd
got
have
to
a
do it
lot
in
of
a
volunteers offering to help you.
I do actually have a couple people who help me.
Which is good. Yes, I was gonna say, it
Yeah.
probably would be helpful. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when she's available, Carly
yeah, of
Hall.
course, yes. I'm glad to
She
hear
actually
she's
still lives
helping.
in my house.
Right,
we're
yeah,
not, we're
right.
not together anymore. We're not dating anymore, but
Yeah.
we're friends, and she's living in the house and
That's
stuff like that.
fantastic.
And yeah, it is. It's good. It works out really well, and so she still helps out with the course. She's really gotten out of the paranormal stuff, and she's gotten more into her own thing, which is she is teaching surgical technology because she is a
Wow.
surgical technician.
That's like from
Now,
like
now she's
apples and
teaching.
oranges.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's kind of it's not apples and oranges. It's like apples to the apple tree.
Yeah, right. It's just- but I mean, it's just
She's
like
like the apple tree now,
paranormal
teaching all the
to,
apples what to do.
yeah,
You know?
I love it.
So
I
she's
love it.
doing that, and actually, she teaches at a Hudson Valley
Very
Community
nice.
College, which is where
That's
I'm teaching my
fantastic.
course at nights. I teach at
All
night.
this
So
evolution going on, and people are
yeah, it's a
just
lot of
moving
things.
out of.
Yeah.
Before we actually went live, we were actually talking about how so many of us have ventured out of film. Like I've been saying now for
Yep.
a while. I had to post it for a while that I've been on hiatus from filming. I've been consulting
Yep.
on film, I did a documentary. I worked on a documentary this summer, not paranormal. Oh, I know, right? But not
Okay.
paranormal.
All right.
So I'm very, very selective, I guess. And it's not because I don't love our house media family. I really do. I
Yep.
had a really great time doing it. But I think just sort of switched gears a little bit,
Yeah.
and I'm a little bit tired. And you were saying that
Yeah.
you were basically going through a little bit of the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't been searching out to do any television.
Right.
Um, nobody's reached out at the same time either. So I don't really care. Problem is, I don't
Right.
really. Well, actually, there was somebody reached out, and I'm like, I don't really have anything for your show. I'm sorry. So,
Yeah,
you know,
reached out as well. I'm like, I'm kind of on hiatus. Like, but I
yeah,
really,
I
for the
didn't have
theme, it
anything
was
that really
hard.
fit. Yeah,
I was sort of like, well, unless we tweak this a bit, I don't know that I have anybody that would fall into it,
yeah.
aside
I
from
had the same
myself being a
issue.
world
I had the same
traveler,
issue.
having had paranormal experiences, like, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. I had the same thing. It's like, they were looking for something specific, and I'm like, I haven't had any cases like that.
yeah,
And I really don't know of anybody who has, and I didn't really want to get into putting it out there again and all
yeah,
that. So I'm like, sorry, I just really don't have anything for you. So, but they still reach out. Our
same,
usual people still reach out to me once in a while.
yeah, yeah,
But it was to me, as we talked about, like
yeah,
TV was never the reason I got into the paranormal.
same,
It wasn't.
yeah,
It
same,
was to help people,
yeah,
as I know it was for you, and to
yeah,
learn and to answer some questions for yourself and things
mm,
like that. So I still enjoy doing that. I haven't had really many people reach out for cases, but I still do enjoy doing that, and I would do it
right,
in a second if somebody really did need some help.
right,
But I've had some people reach out with just questions about their own experiences and things they're experiencing. I've
mm,
given them some advice and stuff like that.
right,
But I've really focused more on this whole teaching aspect because I think, I'm at the point, I just turned 60. Okay. So I'm at the point
mm.
now where how much longer am I really going to be doing investigations for? I don't.
What? There's no
But
age
who's,
on it. What's wrong with you? Maybe he can't run as quick, but not as sharp as I don't know.
I can't think as quick anymore. It'd be like a demon will be at me. I'm like, huh? Yeah, you can just ask me. I
It's
don't
like-
care.
no, I'd still be. You shut that pie hole up, but be
Whatever.
sassing right back. Yeah,
Yeah. But no, my point is I
right.
start thinking about who's taking over next. What's the next generation and
So
what
who are
do
you
they
going to pass
know
the
and what are
torch
they
to?
really
Is what you're
learning?
thinking?
Yeah, not even just pass the torch, but I mean there is still a lot of people really interested in investigating and stuff like
Sure.
that. And what I found through my classes is and these are people who are involved with other teams and stuff. They're like, nobody ever taught me this. Nobody ever showed me that. I didn't know this things yet. Even with like spiritual protection and stuff like that. It's like we
Well,
never. I'm
how
like
much of it, Jack, do you think like television? Because people who haven't filmed
one,
have to know.
zero, zero.
I know.
Everybody watches it. Everybody thinks that's how you do it, and it's
Well,
not.
and that's just it. There is
100% of people
just
are get
because you
involved.
see
It's
it
like,
doesn't
oh, I
mean
saw
it's a
this on TV,
thing,
and this is
right?
how you do this. Like, no,
We have no creative control,
right?
right? And what you see isn't
No,
always the
no,
way it is. So a lot of people go
that's
in
right.
thinking that this is how you do it because this is what I've seen on television, whereas realistically,
Right.
it's completely opposite. So you're basically
It is. It
offering
is.
that
Not
knowledge
not
as
all
say,
of it
this is
is
how you really
completely
do
the
it. Well, no,
opposite.
not all of it, but there's
Yeah,
a lot
yeah,
of it.
yeah.
What people don't realize is when you're doing these
People
investigative
forget.
shows that you can be there for, 2 days and you're getting the best out of 2 days in 1 hour. So
That's right.
it's
That's
not
right.
as
I mean,
exciting as it seems, right?
no, and TV is about entertainment. If the shows weren't exciting and they didn't make them exciting and entertaining, then nobody would watch them, right? If
Right,
they showed what we actually do,
right.
nobody would ever watch a paranormal
It's
show
really
ever.
not exciting. No, it's true. It's true.
Because
I
a lot
mean,
of it is just,
some
it's
places really
background work. It's
delivers,
sitting and talking to nothing and hearing nothing and
It's
having no
true.
experience. And I just had that actually. I just had that with the an investigation we did at uh, a library out in Massachusetts, and we pre-investigated it for an event they wanted us to do.
Mm,
And I'm like, well, I got to investigate it to see what the heck's going on. And the
right.
night we were there to check it out, we really didn't experience much. But when we went back, had all kinds of activity, all kinds of activity. It
Yeah.
was crazy. It's like they were waiting for us to come back. I mean, we did get some EVPs and stuff like that when we first investigated, but this is how it can happen. You go one time, you make it almost nothing when you
You
go
know
back.
what? I have to say, because living in a really haunted place,
Yeah,
sometimes it acts up, sometimes it doesn't. We've had shows come
right.
in here, people stay here. Sometimes they get the full gambit, sometimes they don't. The last show that actually filmed here, aside from interviewing me, okay, the
Yeah,
last
yeah, I remember it.
investigative show that was here, there was coins dropping out of the ceiling
Yeah,
onto the floor, and we're just sitting there going, "I don't think we've ever seen that happen." It's
yeah.
like, "What was that?"
Were they pennies, dimes, or nickels?
I think they were dimes,
I
actually.
I got to tell you something. Several investigations I did. People used to say pennies from heaven. I
Yeah.
think it's moved up to dimes because
I think
every
they're
investigation
upgrading,
I've
yeah.
had,
Cost
yeah,
of
every
living.
has been dimes.
Yeah,
We just found dimes like coming out of like you hear something drop, you look down, it's a dime on the floor. It's like, what the
right.
hell is that? Yeah, but they were all dimes. There was 4 different cases I had. They were all
Yeah.
dimes. It's like I
That's
guess
to
they've
me, it's
upgraded
just
pennies.
to
It's
dimes.
inflation.
I
It's
know.
inflation.
But the house has never done that before, you know? I'm like, "Throw me
Well,
some, like, our $2 coins. Give me some toonies." But,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
it
yeah,
had
yeah.
never done that. We find them laying around, but the camera crew caught them coming from the ceiling. It was
No,
we were
no.
just like,
Maybe
"Oh,
somebody in the camera crew
what's
needed
this?"
some
We
money.
don't know. We've never seen it. We can't even
Maybe
comment.
somebody in the camera crew needed some money and they knew that. It's
I
like, here,
guess
send them
so,
some
you know,
change.
it
Send
might
them
have
some
been a
change.
message. You know how sometimes you investigate and you go in with your team, and sometimes
Yeah.
the spirit will give to that one person that may be in need in some form or
Yeah.
another.
Yeah. That's right. That's
With
right.
interaction, maybe,
Yeah.
they relate to them more. Maybe it was something just like that. Yeah, that's what we were
Yeah.
talking about, dimes. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, we did in one of the cases that we had, the daughter was telling us her father always used to give her just dimes every once in a while,
right.
and she's older. She's in her early 30s now. But she goes, well, anytime my dad would be joking around, he goes, you need some money, here's a dime. Here's a
This
dime.
is a
Here's a dime.
dime.
And
Hey, in
what it turned out it
1800s,
was,
that might have been a big thing.
yeah,
So,
no, this was like in the 1980s. I mean, her father would just bust her,
yeah,
She's always
right.
complaining, I needed money, Dad. Oh, here's a dime, here's a dime. But she
I
would
know.
still find just random dimes all over the place. And it did turn out the father was one of the spirits that was haunting the location. So
Let's see,
hanging
so
out.
yeah, there was some kind of
There was a
significance
connection there
to
still, yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. And there
yeah,
was something else going on, which turned out that's why the father was there trying to protect the family and stuff like that.
right,
But
right.
so it was very interesting. But yeah, it can connect to an individual,
Mm,
just as and maybe it was somebody on the crew and they didn't realize it till after the fact.
right,
You know, that, oh my
right.
God, something connected with
I
dimes
love
to
it
them or
because it's
something.
almost like sometimes it just gets catered to certain people.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, I've been in places where, let's face it, you're sitting there with the coffee, you're just like, "Come on, anything?" You know? But, I mean,
yeah,
they
many
have to,
times.
right? But they have to get used to you as well, or sometimes they just think, "If I
Yeah,
don't do anything, you'll go away and never come back."
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
they have
Or
their
they're confused
reasons.
as to what you're doing. They're like, why are
Well,
these people
so
here?
let's talk about that a little bit,
Yeah,
because you again, I always like to, because we've both done so much television. I mean, I spent 20 years doing television.
right.
People are like, well, how does this happen? Like, this shouldn't happen, and really doesn't,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
but I think let's talk about EVPs for a moment. There's the right
yeah.
way to do it and the wrong way.
Yes.
Like, if you're just saying, well, is there anybody here? First off, it gives the spirit the edge. You're thinking, You can't see me. Or
Yeah, yeah,
what about if the spirit doesn't realize they've passed on? So now they're
yeah.
looking around
That's the other
going,
part.
what, is there anybody here? You don't see me? What's wrong with you?
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe
That's
you're
right.
the
That's
dead
right.
one. I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
so why don't you walk us through that? Like you cover that in your courses as
We
well.
we
And
do we do actually. We talk
yeah.
about communicating with spirits, and that's one of the things we talk about. This person may not know they're deceased, or how do you approach? So how do you approach when you go in? And how what I tell people how I first like to go in is, we'll start walking through the building, and while I'm walking through, I'll be saying, "Hi, my name's Jack. I'm here to talk to you tonight. Blah 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 blah. This the people who are living here asked me to come in and asked us to come in and try to communicate with you. Let them know ahead of time what you're trying to do and what
Right.
your purpose there is, and
Hmm.
you might either get more activity that way, or they still might be confused, but
Hmm.
you might get some responses to the questions.
Hmm.
And it's like, if you're around, we'd like
Hmm.
to talk to you. Please, communicate with us.
Hmm.
So, because maybe they're in a different room, so maybe they're not in the room with you. Maybe they'll come in if you approach it that
Right.
way and
Just
talk to them.
enticing.
And
It
if you
sounds
do have
more
a
like,
name,
yeah.
yeah, if you do have a name, if it's like a residential home, things like that, or even a historical site, you can use a name and say, "Is so and so here tonight? Can you
Hmm.
talk to us?" Things like that. And you can. I do also talk about instigating, but the proper way to instigate, which
Okay.
is you don't scream, you don't
No,
yell, you don't
Jack.
curse at them, you don't do any of that.
So
But
don't
there's a way
challenge
to
it, in other words.
no, no, but there's a way
Right.
to say, "Hey, we were told this about you." And sometimes you do get, oh, they were an awful person, nobody liked them, everybody hated them. You say, this is what I heard. Is this true? Is this you know
Right.
they said you were a mean person, nobody liked you. I actually used that at one location in Massachusetts. It was actually a college there. It was an old mansion, but it had been converted to a college.
Hmm.
The college bought the building and stuff like that, but there's a haunting going on there. And one of the things was that this woman, um, she was a mean person. Nobody liked her, and she was originally from New York, and all the Boston people in Boston hated her. So I asked that question. I say, I literally, I heard this about you. Is this true that you're a
Mm.
mean woman and nobody liked you? Me and the guy who were in there in the library of the old mansion at the time, you hear this woman scream.
Mm.
And I'm like, is that where did that come from? Is that one of my investigators out in the other room? So we went out to
Right.
like, no, none of us screamed, none of us yelled, no. And I was
Right.
like, okay. Listen back to the audio. It's a woman's voice saying they liked me.
Oh.
So we listened back, and they liked me. And when I looked it up about her, the college had the information on the family completely wrong. They weren't from
Right.
New York. They were from Boston. Right.
Right.
And actually, this woman, she was originally from up around Salem, Mass. But her great 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 grandfather
Mhm.
was a surgeon at the Battle of Bunker Hill.
Oh,
She was a
wow.
daughter. She was a daughter of the Revolution.
Wow.
So she was very involved in the community. Everybody liked them. They really looked up to them, and so we gave them all that information in the end once we looked up the names and stuff like that.
Right.
And so, yes, you can instigate by using some hearsay, things like
Right.
that. And that's
Right.
instigating,
Yeah.
but you're doing it in a way that they're going to correct you if you're wrong, or
Right.
they might just get upset about what you're saying and you might get something out of it. But you're not
I
swearing
agree.
at them, you're not
No,
screaming
no,
at
you don't
them,
want
you're
to be
just using history.
disrespectful. No, for
No,
sure.
you're just using history and you're trying to get the truth about that history. Is this
Yeah.
true about you?
I find some of the best recordings I've ever had were done just in conversing with other people in the room and not
Yes,
even
absolutely.
asking
Yeah,
questions. And when you play back the recordings, you got somebody totally interacting in there. And it's like, who's this guy? And you realize, oh,
yeah,
and I find that Wayne makes a really good point here as well, because if you're
yeah,
dealing with, let's say, Victorian spirits or older, use proper speech and introduction, because they at
correct.
first they're not going to know what some of this stuff is. They're going to look at the equipment. It
Right.
might be frightening.
Yep.
The one
Mm,
example I like to use, which you could probably relate to, Jack, being like,
yeah.
working for Ministry of Defense and so on, and
Right.
being
Right.
on these military ships, is that I've had one, I think was it Linda that was telling that story? And Wayne also had this experience when they went to Fort Niagara. Well, this Wayne was at Fort Niagara,
Right.
but they had a camera that said Canon on it, and it was literally smacked out of, like, a big lens, right? It was smacked out of their hands when they were just trying to say, "We're going to shoot a picture. We're going to shoot you,"
Because it said
and
Canon.
there goes
Yeah.
this camera. So
You're gonna
they
shoot me
don't
with a Canon.
understand,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Canon, completely different meaning to somebody in the military.
Exactly. We're at a fort going, "Well, Canada, they're talking about shooting." Right?
Yeah, yeah. Wrong way to talk about that.
Right? I think
We're not gonna
we as the
shoot you. We're gonna
living
take
don't.
your photo.
Exactly. But even then, like, let's go into back into, like, maybe some pre-Victorian times even.
Yeah.
There were some real big superstitions about taking photos of somebody
Right.
because, they believe that sometimes capturing your image would capture your
Your soul.
spirit.
Yeah.
Like, I
So,
think
yeah.
we really have to go back a little bit. And as I'm sure, when I used to do just tours, I would just say, think about where you are, think about the era of the location that you're in, and put yourself there. Try to put yourself on that
That's
wavelength,
right.
because we're coming in with,
You do.
like,
Yeah,
with
you do.
equipment and blink flashing
Right.
and doing things, and they're just like,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
is
Now
that?
there is another side to that. If they are intelligent and they've been around for a long time, and you have a place where a lot of people come and go, they may have seen these things too. They
Right.
may not totally understand what they are, but they may have seen them and picked up on the lingo over the years
Hmm.
and generations. You had
Right.
that happen in the USS Constitution with
Oh,
a spirit of a young
Constitution.
boy. Yes,
Right.
yeah, with the spirit of a young boy who
Right.
seemed to interact in no language that he shouldn't have known from way back when in the 1700s when he died there.
Right.
But they're like, the captain's like, well, how would they know that we're, you got to understand, these are intelligent. They've learned. They hear you people talking on this ship using the
It's
F
true.
word and all this stuff. They picked up on
Exactly.
it. They picked up. He's like, I never thought of that. Yeah, they're still they're still learning.
Well, they're
So
still aware,
they're still aware. That's
you
what
know.
they had a hard time, I guess, coming to grips with. It's like it's not just a ghost. It's the soul and the intelligence of the individual that's still learning.
Right.
So he's been learning what you've been saying after all over all these decades.
Right.
You
And
know.
think about how many
So
people have investigated the ship that he's
well,
interacted with. Really?
one group.
There we
Originally,
go.
back one group, we were the very first to investigate that ship. Then the next time it was
Wow.
investigated, it was by ghost hunters after
Right.
they saw what we had captured.
Of
So,
course. Of course.
no, and
Right.
that's okay. No, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
It's
You know,
okay. It's okay. I just find sometimes, some locations are so overdone. I mean, let's face it, this
yeah,
side of the world, not that the pickings aren't slim, but they're a lot slimmer than what you're going to get on the older
yeah.
parts of the world,
Well,
you
that's just
know.
but the USS Constitution was nice because it's an active naval ship. It's the oldest naval ship in the U.S. military.
Right.
It's still an active ship, which is why they don't just let people go on and investigate that ship. It's being
Right.
used by the Navy
Right.
still for a lot of things, training
Mm.
and signings of treaties and stuff like that.
Which is
Believe it or not,
amazing.
people don't even realize that. But yes, it's not like yeah, come on this weekend and go ahead and
It's not
investigate.
a
Right?
free for all,
No,
people,
you know,
right? Yeah.
no, the Navy is not like that with their stuff. So there's only
Right.
been two groups that ever investigated it. It was Spirits of New England. We did it in 2010, and then I think Ghost Hunters did it in 2012,
Wow.
and they didn't get half the stuff we got. So yeah.
Went. There we go.
Well,
Yeah,
well, we didn't
wow.
have a ton of camera crew following us around either,
It's true.
So
No,
you
it's
know,
true. No, I
so
think
but
I think
it's
sometimes
spirits
up close
is
and personal, right? A little
yeah,
better.
yeah, yeah, and back to the equipment stuff. This is why part of I think I train people is it's
It was.
important when you're first going in. Like I said, you talk to the spirits, tell them why you're there, and describe what this stuff is you're trying to communicate with them with.
Right.
Try to let them know this is what this is called and this is what it does, and you
Right.
can try to communicate with us by manipulating it this way, and
Right.
because they may have never seen anything. So yes, you want to let them know, hey, this is just a piece of machinery, you know.
Mhm.
that
And the
you can
flashlight, for
try to use.
example, they may have called a torch. Like
Yes.
the lingo
Yeah.
a little bit
Well,
might.
definitely in England, they call them torches, yeah.
Yeah, see, there you go.
Yeah, I think, well, even in the New World, they did for a while. They still
For a
call it torch
while.
because they all,
Yeah.
yeah, and there was other names for them too and stuff like that.
Right. Right.
So yes, you do try to use. We'll tell them it's a flashlight. It's
Hmm.
think of it. It's like using a lantern.
Hmm.
It
Yes.
lights
Hmm.
away and things like that. So you describe things to them that they maybe understand better. So you
Right.
do that. I mean, and I find when you do that, you do get better activity because they're like, oh, okay, so I can touch this and it's not going to hurt me, or I shouldn't be afraid of it. And
Which is a
maybe
very cool thing when they touch things, isn't it? Like I've had equipment sort of vibrate and you could tell some things like got hold of it. And then when
yeah,
you play it, like the voice recorders are big ones because you're putting it out there
yeah,
going, hey, just feel free to talk in it. And you can, I've heard things going like just touching it.
yeah,
And I'm just like,
yeah, yeah.
and to pick it
It's
up, I
sitting on a
find it's the
floor.
coolest
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, it's sitting on a floor, it's sitting on a table, nobody's near it. So why does it sound like somebody's touching it? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You're not
Yeah.
holding it. If you're holding it, it'd be another matter. But. So
Uh,
yeah, we teach people all that too. It's like
right.
where to set up equipment, how to use it, how to properly use it,
Which comes
so
to
you
this
don't get false
question.
things.
I
Yeah.
find I got less response and spirits with my camera crew versus doing hunting on my own. Do you have any tips? Should I get my cameraman or sound person to talk to them also?
Yes, I would say
Ah,
yes. I would
there we
also
go.
say he can, with the cameramen and stuff like that, try to have them not to be so intrusive.
Mm,
Always moving around a lot and all that. Try to,
mm.
record what they need to record, but with as little, that's the word I want,
Interference is possible.
interference as possible. Yeah, actually,
Yeah,
I do know two investigators who now they do a lot of filming and stuff too. But because they were investigators, the the guy knows not to be too intrusive as a cameraman when he's
right.
just doing. So he knows to kind of stay back. He'll set up everything where he wants to. He'll be
Hmm.
holding his own camera, but he'll position himself where he doesn't have to move very much. Or he
Right,
will ask a question too,
right.
and he also when he walks through, tells him the spirits there what he's doing, what he's got, what this thing is that he's carrying, and what it's for,
Hmm.
so
So
he'll do
again,
all that. And
explaining that you don't have to be frightened of this. This is
right,
a
right.
thing.
This is what we're here for. We're here to try to talk to you
Right,
and document talking to you and
right.
things like
Yeah.
that. These are
Uh,
just new ways of documenting things, you know.
Tamara says, do you think introducing yourself and intention of visit with respectful approach works better?
Yes, 100%. Even if you
Perfect.
don't get much the first time, go back, because the
Right.
second time they're going to realize these people really were here to talk to me, and wow, they
I
came
missed the
back.
boat.
I need to communicate. Yeah, I
Right.
missed the boat the
Yeah.
first time. Now they came
Well, I
back.
think that's why people
I
repeat
noticed that a lot.
investigations become like they find they get more and more information.
Yeah.
Natalie, hi Natalie, says, what is the biggest difference between TV ghost investigations and non-TV investigations? Ooh, Jack, take it away. That's lots.
Night,
Go for
day,
broke. Yeah.
night, day.
Go
Um,
for broke. Do it.
You got to remember, TV investigations, what you're seeing is the highlights of what they did probably over a week or 2 week period. Okay. Um, and ghost hunters actually will tell you that. They spend a week, 2 weeks at a location,
Mm,
these days. And they'll tell you that. They tell you that, yeah, we're here for 2 weeks, or we're here for a week. So you're seeing just the highlights of what they captured during that period of time.
mm,
Okay. And the difference is you don't see all the other work that goes into it. Yeah, they show you the setup and they show you some of the stuff, and you get a touch of here's how they reviewed stuff, but it takes hours and hours and hours to review all this stuff. I would tell you, for every hour of audio or video or whatever you collect, it's going to take you 2 hours to review it.
mm.
People don't realize that,
That's
but you
true.
got to go through it
Per
little by little. And then
reporter,
when you do
right?
find something, yeah, because when you do
Yeah.
find something, now you've got to identify it there. You got to pull it out of that audio. There's
Mhm,
programs we use for that, and that's part of
mm,
what the advanced class is really going to
mhm,
get into. We use programs to pull these things out, to listen to them better. The only thing I do these days with audio is boost the volume. I won't do anything else to it. Just boost the volume to
Mhm.
see if I can hear it better. A lot of times, if you get a good Class A VP, you don't have to do anything to it. You hear
That's
it.
true.
I mean, that's like you hearing what I'm saying right now.
Yeah, because
That
it
to
could
me
go
is a
the other
Class A
way. You could
VP.
strip it down to where it's questionable after that.
Yeah,
Sometimes,
that's why all I ever do is boost the volume. If I
yeah,
can't hear what it says from that,
move
forget it.
along.
Yeah,
Right.
move along to the next thing. But you're
Tamara,
gonna spend time listening. Is like, oh, was that an EVP or is that my investigator in the background? And
see,
after
there's
many years of doing it, or after many hours of doing it, you get
mm,
the idea. Oh, that's my investigator. I am.
whenever we investigated, I would always tell people that we all knew where the cameras were, we all knew where the recorders were. They were to
Yep.
walk in, announce themselves, timestamp it, and when they left, they did the same thing. This would just help us with review. Because let's say
Yeah.
you're at a place and you've got 10 recorders rolling in different spots. Those are if let's say you got an hour each, that's 10 hours. There's a
Yeah.
lot of work in it,
Yeah. So yeah, if you got
Yeah,
10 recorders, they got 10 hours. Double that time to review it. Now you got to spend 20
exactly.
hours reviewing it.
It
And
takes
that's
a
if you're
long
really
time.
dedicated to what you're doing, which you should
Yeah.
be, especially
You
if
should,
you're trying to do it to help people. If you're doing it in
well, if
residential
you're
cases,
going
you
to
better
the
review
effort of
all that
doing it,
stuff.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, you
I
better
agree.
review all that stuff. And even if you're doing it for research, you better review all that stuff.
Mhm.
So
It can
people
be
don't
tedious.
see that part of it. And they don't see the part where you're spending hours of nothing happening.
Mhm.
Nothing.
No,
And you
it's
start to
true.
get joking around and stuff like that, and then sometimes you get
Or off
interaction when
snoring
you
in the
start doing
corner
that. Yeah,
for
snoring in
wee
the
hours
corner.
at
Oh
work.
my god, I've had that.
I know, right?
I've had
I
worse
know.
than
I
that
work with
too.
somebody who used to do that too, pass out.
Yeah,
Just like, all
yeah,
right.
it happens. It happens. Or you start joking
Um,
around. But sometimes when you're joking around, all of a sudden you get an EVP,
it's true. They
because they
That's
start
what I'm saying. They're
interacting.
interactive, right? They
Yeah,
like to
yeah,
join
yeah.
in.
And believe it
People
or
are
not, there was
people.
one location we spent half the day playing Cards for Humanity.
Yes.
I had more activity during that 3 hours of playing Cards for
There you go.
Humanity. We had K2s sitting around, they were going off, we were asking questions like, "Oh, do you want a card?" We actually started giving cards to the spirit,
Right.
and they won a few times, and every time they win, you see the K2 go off and like crazy and stuff,
See, I
and
love
some of the
that.
other devices
I
go off
love
too.
that.
We
That's
did
so
get we did get
interactive.
and we got some disembodied voices happen during it too. It's like,
Like trigger
"Did you hear what
objects.
they said?"
I
So
know,
it
it's
was crazy.
cool
It
though.
was
But
crazy.
that's
So
something totally different. I love that.
and if you think about it from the time frame these people were from, which is like early 1900s, card games were big to
Big.
sit around playing cards.
That's
So
right. Well, there wasn't a lot to
down
do
with us.
depending,
That's right.
right?
That's right. Well, it was a big
Yeah.
family thing to do, and that's what happened.
Mhm.
They seemed to sit down and join us playing cards. So
The
different
canasta.
kind of card game, but but it was a lot of conversation because you start laughing about the things and stuff like that. So it's a lot of conversation.
No, Wes, I don't think strip poker would work, but you never know. So
Yeah, you never know. Well, I think that's a one-sided thing. You don't get much out of it.
exactly. Woo. Tamara says, "What is the most unnerving place you have been?"
Unnerving, unnerving,
Unnerving place. Yeah.
unnerving. I think. Well, actually, probably the most unnerving was that one actual possession case I was involved with for a year and a half.
Oh, that
That was
one.
kind of unnerving,
That would be. Yes, that would be.
especially when the thing comes out and you realize you're talking to this other thing rather than the person. Then it's like, okay, yeah, okay, what's going to happen now? That's unnerving because you don't know what's going to happen. You
Well, it's
know.
unnerving because you've been infiltrated. It's too,
Well, yeah,
in a
yeah. I
way.
mean, you play the game, you play the game, so to speak, and there's no real game to play because they know everything. I mean,
They
they don't know
do.
what you're thinking, but they
No, they
know
know what
what's
you're
going
thinking.
on, and
So
they
they
know if
do. They
I'm not so
do.
sure
They
they
do.
actually can read your mind, but
Sure
there's
can.
debate about that. There's debate
Telepathic.
about that.
Well,
Um,
energy beings can
I
most
think
certainly do that.
some maybe can and some maybe can't. I think it's
Mm.
like there's a hierarchy there. So some have more powers than others do. Um, but it didn't seem to be able to read our mind, but it knew that we knew what was going on.
Mm.
And once it knew what we really knew what was going on, it was pissed. And I didn't know what was going to happen next, but I was even messing with it. So
Right.
not a good thing to do, really. Well, in that it didn't want to take this blessed medal that I wanted to give to the girl who was possessed, and it's sitting on the other side of a table, and I said, "There's something I want you to have," and I slid it across the table. I said, "Here, take that." The minute I slid it across the table, it pushed back away. She pushed back away from the table. It was like fuming. Take it back. Take it back. I was like, no. I said, well, I'll tell you what. You throw it back to me and I'll take it back. And I'm like, oh my God, that thing's going to lift off the table and come flying at my head or something. It didn't.
Right.
But those, you don't know, right? You don't know
Right.
what's going to happen. So that's probably the most unnerving
That would be
investigation
unnerving.
or thing I was ever did, especially when we did the actual exorcism. That was unnerving.
That gets unnerving. It gets a bit chaotic, you know.
Yeah. But if I would to leave that out, the
Right.
next thing was most unnerving was an investigation that I did with some friends of mine out at the Star of India,
Right.
out in San Diego, California.
Right.
And there was something, it wasn't demonic, I don't think it was demonic, but it was something definitely negative going on that ship at one point. Where these
Right.
heavy boot steps were going on above us and the deck above us, and there's nobody else on the ship but the three of us. And it's
Right.
like you're going out and you're looking, and that was unnerving because
Yep.
it's like, who the hell is walking on the ship? There's nobody else
Right.
here. You
But
go out, there's
unnerving
nobody on
can
the ship.
you'd be unnerved if somebody came bolting around the corner at you, you know, like it puts you on edge. That's unnerving.
Yeah. I
Let
mean,
alone something you can't see, you
I,
know.
I think that's it. I think it's the fact that you hear these heavy boot stuff like pounding, like
Yeah.
really pissed off, and you could sense that vibe to it, and
Yeah.
there's nobody there. Matter of fact, you go out and you look up, and I'm using the
You
camera to
know.
say, "Did somebody get up there?" There's
Yeah,
nothing
yeah.
up, and then you go
Yeah.
back in, and you still hear it. It's like we were just there's nobody up. It is
Yeah.
unnerving. It is.
It
It's like
is. It
because
can
there's
be for sure. Next
yeah.
question. Jack, did you ever have anything go horribly wrong on or after the investigation? Yeah, maybe with the
Yes.
freaking boot guy.
No, that was fine
Go
after. There
ahead.
was just no issue.
Take her
Yes,
away.
yes. It was an investigation we did out in Massachusetts at it was an old library. Any case, it wasn't related to the library exactly. But on my way back home, we actually weren't supposed to go back home that night. We were supposed to stay overnight, but I had something I had to do. So I'm like, I'm going back home, and I'll drive back the next day to come back to the other second building. All right. So on my way home, I get in an accident. I hit something in the middle of the road, destroyed my car. My Dodge Charger wiped the whole front end right out.
Ooh.
That'll wait 2 weeks to have the car repaired. So I'm like, shit. Well, turns out, I think the spirit was trying to communicate with me. We had made some connection with some spirit in the library that was not connected to the library in any way. Turns out there had been an accident just less than a mile down the road where a guy was killed instantly in a car accident. He had pulled into this area to have his boat checked out. He was pulling into this marina. The boat was so big they couldn't get it in, so him and the guy from the marina were looking at it alongside the road. Fortunately, it was on a blind curve. This girl came around the curve, 18-year-old girl, hit him, killed him instantly.
Wow.
He died.
Wow.
Right. So, and we had all these interaction of hurt, police, pain, all this different stuff, and even a name. And when I went back, well, I'm waiting for my car to get fixed. I'm just going through all that evidence and stuff like that. I come across this accident. Every time I put these words in police, this one guy's name, and this other information, this accident keeps coming up. Again, it was less than a mile from the place about the guy
That's
being killed.
tough.
The
Yeah.
name we got was the name of the witness who actually saw it happen. It's like, what the hell? So the thing there was this spirit, I think, came home with me that night because some things happened. I forgot to clear myself before I left.
Yeah.
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 Big mistake.
Yeah. It
Yeah, but
happens.
it was really late. It was 2 a.m. We're trying to get the
Right.
place closed up. We were having problems. One of the doors wouldn't lock, and finally got it all locked up. And I just jumped in my car and left to go home. So I hit this thing in the road. I had made this turn to go get off my ramp on the highway. And right in front of me is this big item sitting in the road that I hit. Oh, maybe just like the girl came around the corner, something in the road. Too late. No way. Nothing I could do. Couldn't have.
Wow.
Turns out it was the front end of part of a bumper off a semi truck. How big was it? Oh, 6 feet long and about 3 feet wide. What's that the size of? a person.
Wow.
And that's what took out my car. So
That's
I
crazy.
think he was really trying to get my attention. When we finally went back a couple weeks later,
Right.
I did contact that individual. It was him. We actually made contact with him. He wanted us to contact his family. This is all the indications we were getting.
Unfinished business sort of thing.
Yeah, like, we can't do that. It's been 2 years. It was 2 years earlier. And the guy was very religious. He was from the old country. He'd come here, built his own business. He's actually a very rich and affluent guy. But it was 2 years since the accident.
That's very hard.
The old people say, well, why the library? Because the library was an old church.
Oh boy.
Him being very religious, he may have heard us. And we don't know how it works, right? Maybe
he might have remembered it from being,
or he might have, that was where he went after something happened to them, because he went to the church,
right?
Church, and tried to find out what happened to him. Why can't he get back to his family?
He may have been. Who knows how spirits see?
We don't know.
Do they see things in our time, past times?
Yeah. We do think we got him to move on. At least he indicated he was going to go.
Right.
So, because I'm like, I'm not contacting your family, not after 2 years.
No, that gets so sensitive. Current times, and unlike times where the families are long gone, but much easier.
Yeah.
Adrian
that was that. Yeah.
Adrian says, have you ever run across sensations of an angelic presence or overwhelming love or compassionate feelings from spirit?
I could say this. Something happened. This goes back to the demonic case. Something happened during that demonic case where it wasn't afraid of me, but it was afraid of something standing behind me.
Right.
And this thing was making indications towards one of the other kids in the family that it was going to go after and kill them. Right. So I stepped in between them, and it stepped back all of a sudden. And as I walked towards it, it stepped back even further. I'm like, this thing's not afraid of me, so what the hell is it afraid of? And other people have said, they see at times this very tall figures standing behind me. Like tall, but they call it dark figures. So I'm like, it doesn't feel dark to me. Unless maybe I got the devil standing behind me himself. I don't know.
Right.
But I do feel when I was first starting, I'm psychic myself. And when I was first get impressions from people, I get the name Michael.
Right.
Okay. And then I get what I used to get was I get the name Michael, and I get this image of a big black motorcycle loaded with chrome. And somebody once told me, well, that's the new version of the Archangel Michael, the protector. He's a big biker guy these days,
all right. That's new to me, but all right.
Yeah. This is what somebody who does angelology, whatever, was telling me. It's like, no, that's the new, like the modern version of the Archangel Michael. He's a tough, the biker guy.
Right.
that stands up for everybody, don't mess with him, that can be one of the views. There's other more modern views of them too, but that's one of the more modern views.
Well, I think, it really depends on the individual, but I love it.
Yeah, but I did always get that name Michael. Anytime I'm giving somebody a reading, I get Michael, and then the information comes through. So is that who was, protecting me, or, standing behind me, where that thing would back off? It's not going to back off from us, right?
Right.
It's not afraid of us.
You need an even bigger kahuna. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was it afraid of? It wasn't afraid of me.
Big guns. Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't afraid of me. That. It's like, that's weird. What's going on there?
Yeah. I'll take it, though.
Me too. I expected to just take the brunt of it. And then,
right.
That's not what
Jack
happened.
down. I know.
Yeah. That's what I expected, but it backed away. So that was odd.
Natalie says, I've only watched investigations on TV, and I wonder why it is that there are only few investigators that seem to show respect and consideration for the spirit, like, for example, the show Kindred Spirits. Could have something to do with, again, the theme of the show.
Yeah. I mean, I knew Amy and Adam, and they're just they're those type of people. That's the approach they take. I mean, I know them.
I've seen fantastic people, though. You got to follow with what Jack and I are like friggin' amazing. What, are you kidding me? And we have a lot of respect for spirit.
Yeah.
But you go with
Yeah, I
know?
think it's in your personality of how you approach things, and that's the way they approach things. That's their personalities of
Mm.
not being intimidating and not being, overly aggressive. They believe you catch more flies with honey than vinegar. So, you
That's
know,
right.
and
Yeah,
that's a good approach.
she
And that's
continues
why you
on.
see that. And then there's others who are just all about the entertainment part of it and making money, and we know who
It's
those people
creative control. You go with
are. It is.
whatever it is the producer tells you to do. They're paying the gig, and
Whatever you decide you're
unfortunately,
producing,
you
it's
could say everything right, and it could end up on the cutting room floor. But she goes on to
that's
say kindred spirits will address them as a person, try and speak their language, or try to speak in the time period they were from. Exactly
yeah,
what we were talking about the EVPs, being
yep,
aware of
yep,
the environment and the time period and things of that nature.
yep.
So I
And
I
I
agree
I'll
with
I'll
that.
be honest, I mean, I know Jason Grant, and that's what they taught people,
Mhm,
and that's
mhm,
what they taught Amy and Adam,
mhm.
they really believe that, that you treat them as people,
We have
because
to. They're people without
they
bodies.
were people once too, they just don't
That's
have their
right.
body anymore,
Mhm,
and because I know, because I learned from them myself, I went to their different classes and courses and stuff like that, and their events they had, and had a lot of good conversations with the two of them, so I know that's what they truly believe.
mhm,
That's how they taught people themselves. And that's part of the reason why I teach what I teach too. But
mhm. I think it's important, and I think when you are in the spotlight, I was always told that when you are in the spotlight, you have to show due diligence. You have to be someone that other people can look up to, especially, if they want to follow suit. I'm sure this works the same with you. For me, I get a lot of people that seek me out to ask questions, and I
right.
really think things through properly. I don't ever,
Yeah.
ever want to be responsible for saying something careless. And then
Right.
somebody goes out into the field, and even on a social level, because there are a lot of places where you can do public tours and public investigations. And
Mhm.
I would hate to think that I didn't prepare somebody enough,
Right. Right. No, I agree. Yeah.
you
And,
know?
and that's again why I teach my
Yes.
courses. I mean, I want
Yes.
people who are really interested in this to learn, and to learn really the proper way to do it. If you want to increase your chances of even just getting activity or getting
Right.
communication,
Mm.
because some people just want to get into it to just try to get answers for themselves. And there's still a certain way to do that if you want to get real answers, you know.
Yes. Yes.
You got to take a certain approach, and that is why I teach. This is going to help, my purpose is this is going to help you investigate better and
Mm.
get better, maybe evidence, if that's what you're
Mhm.
looking for. I also teach them that anything you have on those audio recorders and video and everything else is just data. It's not evidence of anything. It's data
Ah,
that you
I
have
like
to
that.
review and
Mm.
collect.
Mhm.
And then it only becomes potential evidence once you've got a combination of things that lead to one potential answer, one potential thing. You
Mhm.
had an experience, you caught an EVP at the same time, and maybe it got something on video, or you caught something else on another recorder at the same
Right.
time. You want that combination, or something else on another piece of equipment. You want that combination of things
Mhm.
to bring the data together to say this is potential evidence of spirit communication or spirit activity.
Mhm.
And it's kind of the same approach, which is where my engineering stuff comes in. Working in the engineering field for all these years as an engineering technician, doing testing and collecting data and looking at the data to determine what
Ah,
is going on. That's the way I
right.
approach it. It's data.
Right.
It's data.
Right. Kathy says, "Does your course teach people how to clear themselves so entities can't follow them home?" Ooh,
Yeah,
never
and
guarantee with that, but good luck.
yes, we do cover a little bit of that in the 101 course. We do talk about the importance of spiritual
Yeah.
protection, and some things you can do to do that, especially relying on your own personal beliefs, whatever your belief system is. But we do talk about different stones, things, crystals for protection, stuff like that, stuff to carry with you. But we're going to get into more detail in that in the advanced course. But yes,
Mhm.
that's actually like day two, and part of day one and day two of
Mm.
the course,
Right.
because it's important. I mean, it's a spiritual realm that we're talking about. So that's what I mean. What do people think a ghost is, right? I say to people in the course, I ask them, "What do you think a ghost is?" When we're talking about that spiritual protection, And somebody like, do you believe you have a soul? Yeah, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the human soul or
Mm,
other things that are not human. So you have to protect yourself from that, just like you got to do things to protect yourself from people, right?
mm.
You
What
meet somebody
about
for the first time, you don't know who they are or what they're about or anything like
mm,
that. So there's certain things you do to protect yourself,
mhm.
keep a
What
distance,
about the
careful.
theory of dimensional bleed through? That seems to be a
Uh,
big one.
yeah, it's
Multi
another
dimensions.
possibility. I mean, it is another possibility, or time bleed through. I
Yeah,
mean, I've seen, which I don't think is true in every single case, but
sure.
I have seen some things where um, you seem to be talking to somebody who's in a different time.
Yes.
They
Yeah,
they can't see you and you can't see them, but they're confused. Well, where are you? Because I can hear you, but I can't see you. So that
right.
could be something of like I don't know what you want to call it bleed through, but it's a time. Maybe it more has to do with time.
Mhm,
You've somehow crossed that time barrier from one to the
mm,
other. Why is that? How is that? I don't know. There's millions of theories. Portals,
mm.
things like
It just makes me
that.
wonder if sometimes that we mistake things, because sometimes with allegedly, because with dimensional bleed through, so to speak, people will say, well, that they can see the individual and say, well, they looked different, like their clothes are too big, or their eyes were different, or their hair was different.
Yeah,
But, with people who work heavily into the demonic realm, with demonic beings will say, well, that's usually someone like a mimic trying to trick you in a way,
yeah,
but there's
yeah,
always something different. So it just seems that there's so many different theories, but in the end of these theories, you have a lot of very similar characteristics.
yeah, yeah. Thank you, sci-fi, for alternate
I
universes.
know, right? Bam.
Hey, hang on a sec. I gotta show you. I gotta show you something. If I can
Okay.
find it real quick. If I can find it real quick. Oh
Okay.
yes. Yes, okay. Here it is. As you see my whole sci-fi collection in my background here. Let me see. Here, I'll show you. Where is it? Dun, dun, dun. Okay, here you go. Here's Spirits of New England, and here's me in the alternate universe right there. That's Jack Kenna in the alternate universe of wherever with
With all
Spirits
the
of New England.
gals, yes.
With all the gals, yeah. This is Ellen over here. Doesn't even look like nothing like her, and
I love it.
Sharon, and yeah, we all look a lot better in the alternate universe. That's for
Yes,
sure.
it um,
When I was having that when I was doing that when I wrote the story, and then I was having the guy, illustrated. Alex Cormack was like, "Do you want to look like yourself?" I said, "God, no. Make me look much better."
make me big and
Comic
bad.
book.
Yeah.
I don't want to look
Yeah,
like
yeah.
myself in a comic book. I want to look like somebody better. So
That's
the
oh,
superhero,
wow.
right? The hero, the paranormal hero, right? Yeah.
No,
There you
I
go. You're
love
like,
it.
oh,
Oh,
okay. This is
it's
make me look
awesome.
similar, but not the same.
Yeah, it's
So yeah,
creative.
that's me in
I
the
love it.
alternate comic universe. Anyway,
I love it. Natalie has another great question. What about the concept of people creating a spirit? Any insight onto how or why it happens? Is it
yes.
like a
Yeah.
tulpa thing?
Tulpa. I don't.
Tulpa, Slender Man, for example,
Oh,
people,
yes, yes, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Slender
yeah,
Man was
yeah, yeah.
created through a website with people basically giving it
Right,
characteristics, like a game, right?
right.
And
Just
giving
like
it
the one
all
with the
these
Ouija board, where they
characteristics.
created
And well,
the
they
the
did to the
spirit with the
point
Ouija
where
board. Yeah.
there started being sightings of a Slender
Mhm.
Man
Yeah.
all over the world. But Slender Man was a thought process from millions of people
Yeah.
who had a mindset to create this
Yeah, I
being.
believe that. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
it's no different than you're talking about. It can happen in a home with a negative thought form, or
yeah,
even a positive thought form.
sure.
You know, things can be created.
Projection,
People can sometimes think
poltergeist.
they see something angelic,
Mm,
which was just a positive thought form created by the people within that home, because
right.
they're very positive people and maybe
Mhm,
there's all of a sudden they have something negative going on in their life, and this bright light figure comes to them because it's a positive thought form they created, with
right.
all their other positivity
Hi,
before
Carl.
that. And more
Yeah,
it happens with negative thought forms, because let's face it, most of us are, more negative people in humanity. So
right. It's
humans tend to
true.
be negative than positive.
It's like throwing
I don't
energy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
I mean,
like psychokinesis or like,
right.
but with thought. as
Yep.
opposed to energy,
Yep.
perhaps,
Yeah.
or
Yeah. And I'll say a quick hi to Carl too.
yeah, I got
Carl,
him coming in. Hey.
Carl, of course, there too.
Tamara says, have you ever gone to investigate and it turned out to be something else from what you thought it was going to be? Yeah,
A
like
lot
the
of
demon.
times. Well, actually, usually, yeah. Well, yeah. This is one thing I tell people. I'm a believer, right? I mean, I'm a believer. I don't believe in the skeptical believer stuff. I just don't believe in it. Either believe or you don't. Right?
Right.
I'm a believer, but when I go into a location or I go into a residential home or whatever, I reserve anything I'm going to. I reserve my thoughts and I reserve what I believe or anything until I've investigated there and see
Right.
what's going on. You got to put that in the back. You got to not forget what you believe, but you got to put your beliefs in the background in order to really help people out. So you can't assume what they're telling you is true.
Exactly.
You listen to it. You make sure it's documented of what they've told you is happening. Because what happens is you can't believe everything somebody tells you, especially in residential cases, because they've been experiencing something for so long. They now believe everything that happens is paranormal related, and it's not. But they're so freaked out. Anything that happens, a glass fell off the table. Oh, it's a ghost. No, it's probably not. But you find stacked glasses in the middle of the floor when you're investigating there. Yeah, okay, maybe something's going on.
Right. Right. It could be. Yeah, it could be.
I've never seen that, but I mean,
yeah,
it's
it could be a thing.
But the point is, you have to reserve any judgment you make until you've investigated it yourself, and don't have any preconceived notions of what's going on. Right? That can be hard to do, but don't. It's like anything else. Don't assume. Because what happens when you assume? You make an ass out of you and me. Right?
That's right. Out of you and me. Yeah, right.
So you can't make
Exactly.
any assumptions. You can listen.
Right.
You collect the information. You collect data. You go through that whole process. So and then you can make your determinations based on that. But yeah.
Right.
Hopefully, I answered that question. I don't know.
Right. Next. Ever have a spirit visit you the day of or before you investigate the location it resides at?
Yes, only I've had that only during actual demonic related cases. I had a terrible nightmare about clowns tearing me apart.
Ooh, clowns.
Yeah, before one investigation. I mean, that wasn't a possession case, but it was demonic related. It was probably an oppression. Okay, it was more of an oppression than anything else. But I've had things like that. I've had it where I tell you, you learn what's going to be demonic related by the experiences you have before, during, and before and during the investigation. One of my telltales is all of a sudden my GPS will totally malfunction and tell me it's a different day, different time, or try to reroute me to go back home. Make a U-turn, make a U-turn, make a U-turn. And I have to shut it off and restart it. It's like that. I found that's an indicator of, okay, this is not going to be a normal, regular haunting. Something else is going on here. I'm not assuming it's demonic, but something else is going on here. Something probably a little bit more negative because it doesn't want me coming.
Right.
So,
Right.
it doesn't want me there. I had this terrible nightmare or things like that.
Trying to throw you off course at the
Yeah,
GPS. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's not. And don't just because I say that. Don't assume if it happens to you, it's going to be a demonic case. You can't make that determination. But you can say, okay, let's see where this goes.
Right.
What happens with this next? Make a note of it. And these aren't just dreams. These are things that seem real. Like you're awake, So you got to realize it's not just a dream. It seems like this is really happening to you. So it's really messed up. Especially when you got clowns trying to attack you.
The clowns of
real,
all things.
It seems real. Yeah. You don't know how it's gonna come. You just don't know. They look for things that scare you the most.
Right.
Especially with demonic things. They look for things that scare you the most.
That brings me to the next question. Okay. Because I mean, one thing I've learned with filming is I can give 5 or 6 answers, logical answers to every question I'm asked, and the only one they're interested in is the big spooky demon one. I always say the whole world thinks I run around screaming demon. Me, I'm really the most logical person. I'm one of those. It's psychokinesis, but nobody wants that freaking answer. Okay.
No.
But do you think it's a word that gets thrown around a little too much?
Yeah, way too much.
Yeah.
And remember, it's about TV. TV is about entertainment. And what do they
That's
always think about paranormal? It's always negative. It has to be negative in order to be
that's
exciting
ratings. I
and
know.
and
I know.
ratings and
Yeah.
but I mean you can go by you can look at um like the Catholic Church will tell you that there are no human spirits on earth. Anything that you're dealing with is demonic.
The Christians as well.
That's
Yeah.
the Christian view of
Yeah.
it. I mean, I'm Roman
Yeah.
Catholic, so I mean I know the
Right.
view there, but
I'm a recovering
quietly,
Catholic.
but quietly,
Yeah.
still Catholic. Yeah. I have my faith. I have my belief. I believe in Jesus Christ. I'm sorry.
No, me too. But
Yeah,
there's a lot
but
of different
my
faiths
point
that
is
do. Yeah.
when I talk
Right.
to when you talk to clergy
Mm.
outside of that, they will tell you or they'll say, well, yes, it's possible for a human spirit to be earthbound for
Mm.
some reason. Um, it's become a little bit more progressive over the years, but they will still tell you that's unusual for that to happen. Um, but it can happen,
Mm.
and why it happens, they're not totally sure.
Mm.
But they can try to help these earthbound human spirits, to move on to the next
Mm.
thing.
It's not
Um,
unheard of for a spirit to lose their way,
it happens, and a lot of
especially if
it,
you don't realize that they passed on.
yeah,
You
or
know.
they don't realize that, or sometimes they have, and they're afraid of whether they
Well,
believed in heaven, hell, and anything else, but they're
well,
afraid of that
sure.
potential
I mean, Jack,
judgment.
think about it. Religion teaches you that, covet thy neighbor's wife, you're going to hell. And Spirit's
Yeah.
saying, I'll take my chances and stay here. It's like,
That's my point.
like,
You'll be
right?
judged. They're trying
I,
to
I,
avoid
I,
that
I
judgment.
think the
Yeah.
institution and religion itself literally instills a fear of God into people.
Well,
Where
we're
they're like,
supposed
yeah,
to.
we're
That was the
good.
point.
Yeah, we're
10
good. We're good.
Commandments. Thou shalt not do these things. Of
No,
course, it was
exactly.
to
So
try
to
to.
say,
Of
yes,
course, it's
it's
also to try to
possible.
make people better people.
Sure,
Like
but in the
don't
same
covet your
respect,
neighbor's wife.
in
Don't kill
doing
people.
that
You
and
know.
in teaching that, they
Yeah.
really are effective to the point where they say, well, it's possible. Heck yeah, it's possible. You did your job right. These people
Well,
literally don't want to
that's
move now.
you're
So,
right, but
yeah,
that was the religion of
yeah,
Abraham
yeah, yeah,
and Moses. And that's why
sure.
when Christ came along, it became a little bit different.
Right.
It's like, well, no, you can be forgiven for these things, and there's a way, and these are the rules still, yes,
It's a,
but there's
it's a whole other
forgiveness for
show.
that if you're truly repentant, and you know,
Yeah,
even
it's
in
a
the
whole
end,
other
even at the
show.
end, if you're truly repentant for all that you've done, you can,
A
still go
loving
to
God
heaven.
will always forgive.
It became a
That's
loving God rather than a vengeful God.
that's right.
At the
Exactly.
turning point with Christ, became a loving God
Exactly.
rather than a vengeful God.
Exactly.
Prior to
Um,
that, it was vengeful, yes.
how
And
do you
maybe he
identify?
figured out, well, that didn't really work too well. They're still all
No,
killing
just take
each
the
other.
nicer approach. No,
Let's go to a different
let's see if
approach.
the
Yeah.
flock pays attention.
Yeah, let's try something
Um,
else.
so Cape Haunt says, how to identify demonic hauntings versus ghosts.
It takes a long time. Don't let anybody kid you that, oh, I can go in and they can figure this out within a day or a couple hours. It took a year and a half with that haunting to figure out it was an actual possession case.
Right.
It takes usually at least, even in the case of an oppression, it can take several months to actually determine that's really what's going
Oh
on.
God, years with some people.
Some years with some people,
Yeah.
oppressions, I don't know. You can usually figure them out a little bit quicker,
Yeah, but when you
within
come on
months rather
board,
than
you're the
years. Yeah.
researcher, you're the versed one. People
Well,
spend their
yeah, I
entire
have.
lives living in an oppressed state and have no clue
Right.
until
So
someone like you comes along and says, no, this is what it is. And like, oh, everything makes sense now.
and there's things you have to
You
do to
know,
figure that out. I mean, there's
yeah.
tests you run, spiritual tests, things like
Yes.
that. There's
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
things you have to do,
Sure.
conversations you have to have. You have to talk to them about,
Yep.
well, what in your past, has maybe caused something, and they will tell you if they really want
Mm,
your help. And I found, because we have a 13-page form people have to fill out, okay, just to
mm,
give us some basic information. One of them is, you have any trauma in your life, if you had any
mm-hmm,
trauma in your life currently, past, whatever. A lot of people will tell you they had issues with family rape,
mm-hmm.
family
Deep
drug abuse,
trauma.
deep
Mm.
trauma. And one of the first questions I ask when I meet them is, have you talked to anybody about all this? Oh no. I just kept it in. I don't tell anybody. I deal with it myself. No, you can't. You can't deal with it yourself.
And it
This
just
is why you're
bottles up inside of
experiencing what you're
you. Yeah.
experiencing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've just
Yeah.
attracted by holding all that negativity in. Number
Right.
one, it's why you have outbursts of anger every so often.
Mm,
you know,
right.
and you can know enough to say, look, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I can tell you, you need to go talk to one.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and
Exactly.
we do encourage them to go get help and stuff like that. But I do
Right.
believe that negativity draws in negativity. So these negative type entities or even spirits are drawn to that
Well,
and
it's
they
a
will
law of
feed off
attraction.
of
You
it
can
and they will
attract all
encourage
that
it.
too.
Yeah,
Sure.
and they'll
Sure.
encourage that type of they can kind of attach to you and
Hmm.
encourage that type of activity within you to be more
Yes.
negative, to let that sure, feed on that negativity, let it out, go ahead. Go off on this person for no good reason. You know,
Right.
just because of all this anger you're holding in,
Right.
of something that happened to you. So you've got to work with these people and you got to talk to them and it takes months sometimes
Hmm.
and can take months to convince them you need to go for help. You need to talk to a professional. If you want to
Hmm.
tell your family, don't. I don't care. But you need to go
Tell
talk to a
somebody.
professional about it.
Yeah.
Funny thing is, they'll tell you.
It's true. I always
They won't
say a
tell their own
paranormal
family.
researcher will often play the role of counselor. Like I've been an ear
Right.
many times and I've
Right.
always tried to direct to somebody professional. In fact, when I do some cases, I would require permission from a psychologist or a psychiatrist to be able to work with individuals. And I always get it as long as I don't encourage them to go off medication or because if the medication
Right. No,
doesn't
no, no.
work,
You can't do it. No, you
no,
can't do anything like that. Also, you
but
can
if the
do.
medication doesn't work, then they're like, maybe there's something else at play. And I've
Right.
worked with psychiatrists and psychologists alike who have been very open about paranormal activity.
Right.
So, or oppressions and things like that, because it's such a fine line. So I agree with you. There's many times where, you start out being that ear. And I think people sometimes, because when they come to you,
Yeah.
it's basically because they feel confident that you're going to help them. So you're that rescuer, there's
Yeah.
someone that they feel safe with and they
Right.
feel that they can just pour out their heart to you. When
Right.
realistically you're thinking, "Oh, I can't advise you because I am just not
No, you can't.
certified to do that."
Right.
And it can be really heavy. Kelly, hello, Kelly. Kelly's been on this show before. She's just
Hey,
delightful. Have you
Kelly.
ever had a marking on your body you could not explain? She goes, for example, I had a handprint. And did you attribute this to spiritual, paranormal, extraterrestrial?
I never have, but I've been
Me
with
neither.
investigators who have been scratched, had
Yeah.
scratches show up on them, bruises show up on them. I've never had any physical marks. I've actually was I would say not possessed, but I was being influenced by something on a couple investigations where I had to
Oppressed.
step
Yeah.
out of the building, and I had a friend of mine who was with us that had to do a blessing on me just because, and do a
Mm.
cleansing on me because I was about to punch somebody in the face and I had no reason why.
Mm. Because that's
But
not
you got to
full
recognize
lovable
things.
Jack. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you got to recognize when these things are happening, and
Right.
there's tells to it before. Like
Mm.
one thing I did notice is I'm trying to talk to people and I'm coughing and I'm kind of like feel like I'm choking a little bit, and then all of a sudden that anger came through. That coughing was an indicator, and I did catch it, and I'm like, oh shit, I think something's going on, and then all of a sudden this other person I knew was talking about how they called out this thing in the basement and they were really standing up to it and I think that thing was trying to come through me to punch him right in the face because I was going to punch him right in the face.
Hmm.
So I'm like, why would I do that? So you got to recognize, why am I doing this? And I just like people, I'm sorry, I gotta go. I just
Hmm.
really walked out of the whole group, and it was actually an event I was holding. I had to walk
Hmm.
out of the whole group, walk out of the building. I said, I got to go. And my other friend followed me out. He goes, you okay? I said, no, something just,
Hmm.
so he did the
You
blessing and he
know.
did a cleansing on me. You
Yeah.
have to
You know.
recognize, you
Yeah,
have to
exactly.
recognize.
Well, something like
And when you're new to it, you don't always, that's the
mhm.
problem. You don't always
That's
recognize when you're new to it,
that's sadly very true, and it's something they don't teach you on television. But
which
I
is
mean,
why I'm
Kelly,
teaching it. It's part of what
but
I teach.
I've known people who it's happened to, Kelly, and I think there's a lot of other things to factor in. Like
Yeah.
I've woken up with bruises, and I know there's nothing here. Being a
Yep.
medium, I know there's nothing here. However, I
Yep.
do have extraterrestrial experiences, so I attribute them to that. But I
Yeah.
think it's like what Jack was saying earlier, even about when something, I mean, it's paranormal, is actual evidence, but
Yeah.
when you have a series of events or a series of compilations that all complement one another
Right.
and it works together, then you can say, you know what? Yes, people have been scratched in this environment. For example, people have had aggressive experiences, and you capture that in different
Right.
ways, different
Well,
formats. That's, I
that's where
think,
the
what you can
data
attribute it to.
becomes, yeah, that's where the data becomes evidence of something paranormal in nature.
Right.
Because you've got these
Oof,
multiple things
mantis.
all happening at the same time, it adds up. That data now becomes evidence of something. Okay.
Yes, because
Right.
everything works together, and I think that I
Right.
mean, no, I mean, I've had some like Class A EVPs that have been mind blowing, and nothing else to go with it. But I think if it's questionable, it won't be questionable to
Right.
the same degree. Because I'm one of those people, I mean, unless that spirit walks up to me and goes, "Hey, I'm here," and I can poke him, it's be like, okay, if I can poke you
Yeah.
with a stick, that means okay, but
Yeah. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
yeah. So, I have to do a very quick station and sponsor ID. So for all of you who are tuning in, should have been tuned in an hour and a half ago, but we'll let it go. But you are tuning into the Outer Realm, and our very special guest is Mr. Jack Kenna, which maybe some of you do not know that Jack and I together started the Outer Realm. Bam, bam, bam. And then Jack came to some revelation one day and goes, "Michelle, I make a much better guest than I do a host." I'm like, "What?" So
Pretty much.
hence,
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. That was
yeah,
pretty much
so
it.
he's been on the show before. You guys can go and seek out his archive, but we're glad to have him again, going back to our roots a little bit. So again, Outer Realm, broadcasting live in United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network 105.3 and 107.7 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. Fully sponsored by Folgers Coffee, whom we love, Justin Snicker, aka Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, who is an award-winning composer, and he is the voice and the music that you hear behind the Outer Realm. And Steve McGinnis, his basically the artistic mind behind a lot of our artwork here. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We appreciate you all so very much. And yes, there we go. Bam, bam, bam. So, and actually, I'm going to play something very cool because I know like
Okay.
Renee was was in the chat room, and I'd encourage people, give me Folgers commercials, because they'll sit here in front of millions of people and hit over 200 archive sites. So if you're trying to promote yourself like this will work. So this is Renee Dyke.
Hi, Renee Dykes here. I'm with Paranormal Adventure Events. Also, my team is Tennessee Night Stalker Paranormal Intrigue. And as people know, when you go on ghost hunt, you've got to have the go juice. And what's scarier than the mug that I have right here is not having this right here. I even carry my own K-cup coffee maker with me, a little mini, when I go on ghost hunts around other states. Yeah, that's how dedicated I am to Folgers. Thank you.
There we go. See how easy that was?
Yay.
I have played
Renee
this
is a
many
really good
times.
friend of mine.
She's a doll, and she sent that in. I love it because I love her accent, and it's gone everywhere. So we have a few of them that we play. So again, guys, you want to promote yourself, promote your team, promote your company. As long as there is a commercial, 30 seconds or so with a Folgers in it, or something along these lines, then you are good to go. So here we go. I thought so as well, Tamara. So we are back. So yes, okay.
Yeah,
So
Renee's a really good friend of mine. Actually, I stayed at her house before. She put
oh,
me up for a few days, as a
she's
matter
a
of fact.
sweetie. She is
She
such a
is. She's
sweetie.
awesome. She's awesome.
She's what we call good people.
She is. Actually, yes. Her and John, her husband John is great people. They are good people. Yep. Yep.
Right.
And awesome people.
I
Yep.
know. I love it. There's one thing about the field is that you have so many great people in it. And then you have others that's just, it can be a little bit like any industry. It can be very misleading and cutthroat. And it's sort of
Yeah, like
sad
me,
because,
right?
yeah, especially you
Misleading
squad.
and cutthroat.
I know.
Misleading and cutthroat. That's me. That's me.
I know. No, I love how people can band together. You know, I often hear this term paranormal unity, and I think with some people it really does apply, and other people not so much. And it's kind of sad, but
Yeah.
I see a little bit more of it coming forward, and I love it. I always said, like when you and I started out around on average,
Yeah.
you know, it was about information, working together, and it's something that the format has remained, and it's been a
Which is
platform for
awesome.
people to come forward and say, yeah, hey, you know, um, and I think that's something that I don't know. I'd like to see that continue to grow. Do you notice that, you know, out in with your classes and your courses? Do you see more of that unified feeling,
Well, I mean,
energy?
that's another part of the reason I teach these courses. I'm bringing people together who don't know each other, and
Right.
they're like, wow, okay, there are other people who are interested
Yeah.
in this. And part of what I do is if I have like 15, 16 people, I break them up into two different teams,
Ooh,
and they have to
competition.
work as a team.
Nice.
They each have to work as a team. And in doing that, they also get to know all of each other. So they
Right.
become actually good friends, and they now create their own teams,
Right.
because they know they've now know people they can go out and investigate with who have like interests and have learned the same type of things,
Mhm.
of how to approach things, and how to share ideas and
Right.
think outside the box, so to speak, or get rid of the
Right.
box altogether,
Right.
but be considerate of each other's ideas and thoughts and theories, and that's the purpose. That was the purpose of, I mean, what you do. It's the purpose of what I did with Paranormal Q&A when Carly and I were doing that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and was to get people to share thoughts, ideas, and what I liked was when I did Paranormal Q&A, there was finally one time where all these people had met each other online and everything else, and we held an event at the USS Salem, and they all came to it. Almost
I,
all of them came to it.
I love
So they
that.
all got to meet each other in person and
Yeah.
became friends, and
Mm.
and they were sharing their thoughts and ideas before that anyway. One thing I
Right.
liked about when I was doing that show for quite a while there was I'd watch what was going on. We'd be talking, Carly and I'd be talking about something. They're all talking amongst each other. They weren't even listening to us sometimes at all. They
They're
were
just
talking
arguing, fighting.
amongst each other. No, they were
Oh,
actually having good conversations
talking.
about,
Right.
yeah, they were like, well, this could be what's going on with somebody would come in with a haunting issue. And
Right.
they all saying, well, this is what happened to me, and this is what I experienced. And this is what I wanted to have happen. They all
Right.
started talking amongst each other to
Mhm.
resolve issues and give each other thoughts and ideas about things. And they were
Mhm.
still listening to us, but they were helping each other,
Right.
not just looking to me and Carly for answers, but they were helping each other and
Right.
learning from each other, which is what I really wanted to see happen. And
Right.
it did. And it did. They're all still bugging me to bring that back. And I'm like,
Why
I'm
why
still
not
kind of,
though?
probably am going to bring something like that back. I was supposed to start it back in September. I still felt a little burnout. So, and I was really focusing more on the advanced course and getting that started and doing all that stuff. So maybe at some
Well,
point I probably will bring
I
something.
just happen to know somebody that can, can probably get you a spot on a network what can put your show to like hundreds of archive sites. No. No. You can
There's a
still
reason I
it
offered that.
still goes.
You
It
offered
still
me that
goes
before.
it still goes to Facebook. Yeah, it still goes to all of these. Only it
Yeah,
goes to
the
all
reason
these different places.
the reason I never did that
Yes.
was because the way I am and the way things are, and like I said, I make a better guest than I do host,
Yeah.
because I didn't want that mandatory tie-in
Right.
to have to do it every single week. If for some
Right.
reason I didn't feel like it, or I didn't feel good, or something else, and especially my COPD, some days I don't know if I'm going to have the
Yeah.
energy to do it.
Right. Right.
So I never wanted to get tied into something like that, which
You
is why
can't
I just
blame a
didn't
friend
want
for wanting to help another
No,
friend
absolutely
get the
not. No, and
message
I do
out
appreciate it.
to
I
the
greatly
masses.
appreciate it. But
Yeah,
my thing about it is,
right.
given my current situations and with family, I've got a grandson now, and I like to just
Oh,
take
that's
off
so nice.
sometimes and go
Me
down and
too.
visit them in Virginia. They live in Virginia, so I like to go down and visit.
I love
I
it.
I just don't want to get really tied in on a regular thing to
Yeah,
something. I just don't. It's just.
yeah.
I mean, I'm
No, I
tying
mean,
myself into the investigate for the paranormal training stuff. That's enough.
right, right. Oh my
That's enough
gosh.
for me. But I know I greatly appreciate it, and you're not the only ones to offer. Ted Vanson's another friend of mine. They offered, and I'm like, no,
Yeah,
and I always let people know I really do appreciate it, and I know it comes from the heart, and I know that you
always,
want to like help me get stuff out there and stuff.
always.
But
Well,
you
you
can still find
always
my
have
stuff
a
on
spot here.
Spotify. Yeah,
There you
my ones
go.
I have done are still on Spotify,
Yeah,
and people can check it out there. I mean, it's the archive stuff.
right.
Um, and there's places you can find a YouTube. All my stuff is on our YouTube
There you
Paranormal
go.
Q&A channel, so you
Check
can
him
see
out.
all of
But
the
they can
things.
access that through your website, which is scrolling along the bottom
Yes,
here.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
perfect.
Everything is accessed through there if they need to find it, and they know
Okay.
they can find all that stuff there. So, but yeah, so it's all still out there, and they were
Mm-hmm.
good shows and they were fun to do. But
That's always fun. I
this
love what
this
I
also
do.
happens
It's
with me.
great.
I do something for a period of time, and then I'm like, I'm gonna go do
I'm gonna
something.
take a break, and
Yeah,
yeah.
and I
Well, it's
want to go
nice
do
to
something else.
connect with the
You know,
masses and answer some questions and
we
interact
definitely
with
have to.
people.
I mean, you
Well,
definitely have
every
to.
now and then. You can come on
Yeah.
here anytime you like, Jack, and do
No, I
this
appreciate
anytime
that.
you like.
I
Natalie
appreciate
says, "Do either of you know any atheists who are investigators?"
Actually, yes, I do.
Yeah, I knew one as well, and she was
Yeah,
darn
yeah,
good too.
yeah, and doesn't use any spiritual protection, and did finally have a problem. Didn't for years, but he finally had a problem. Yeah, and
Mm.
I'm like, well,
But
you
a
got
lot of it
lucky
has to
for a
do
long
with
time.
mindset. How do you think that, how did the problem occur? You can go years without an issue because you just don't go there. And then all
Right.
of a sudden, how did you get that rectified? Did you rectify that?
No, 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 no.
Oh,
I
you
wasn't even
didn't,
there
eh?
when it happened. I wasn't even there when it happened. Somebody else. They were doing an event, and he had something kind of attached to him, and his friends noticed that he didn't even notice it.
Oh,
And so it wasn't anything really negative. It was they felt like a spirit of this woman that was kind of connected with him and kind of tried to uh, attach to him, and because he was being very
I am
open and
here.
stuff,
Right. Yeah.
and being very
Right. Right.
understanding of what maybe happened to that spirit. So uh, his friend there cleared him, and the same thing, pulled him out of the building. Like my friend followed me out and cleared me. They did that, and it was fine. It wasn't anything negative or anything. It was just the spirit took a liking to him and attached to
Right.
him and was trying to communicate through him, and
Right.
it's just what happened. So he
Yeah.
he didn't even remember part of it,
Mm.
which tells you he was possessed for a short period of time.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and because he doesn't remember, he remembers having certain feelings, but he can't
Mm.
remember exactly what happened. And he said, "I all the years he's been doing it, he never had that happen to him." I said, "Well, spiritual realm, it's risk you take.
First time
You
for
got lucky.
everything.
You got lucky until that point.
Yeah. First
You
time for
know,
everything, right?
there is. You
So,
never know when it's going to happen.
no.
Even with the mindset of, you're a strong individual. Nothing can really touch you, bother you, stuff like that. You make a connection like that. That's all it
Absolutely.
takes, and that's all it
Uh,
takes."
Adrian says, during investigation, statistically speaking, do you find more male or female spirits stuck on this plane?
I don't know.
Answer cautiously, Jack.
50-50.
You get yourself in trouble.
50-50. Yeah. It's
50-50.
how many investigations have I done? I mean, am I absolutely certain one was female or one was male?
Right.
In a couple
And
cases, yes. In a few cases, yes.
sometimes it'd be hard to
Um,
tell by EVP with a whisper, for example, right? It's not always.
yeah, unless you get like what happened at the Boston College where it was a female voice and she said her name.
Mhm.
Actually, her name came through one of the devices, and I said, "Oh, blah blah blah. Is that your name?" And then EVP, female voice, saying yes.
Right.
That was captured immediately after
Right.
that question. It all
Right.
happened within seconds, right? So, yeah, I'm pretty sure that was a female spirit.
Right. Right.
Um, But I don't know. I'd say it's a mix, right? I mean,
It's a mix. Yeah.
it's a mix.
Yeah.
You know,
I
I wouldn't even
agree.
say 50-50, but I mean, you know,
Could
how many
be. And,
friends do you know that are male, and how many friends do you have that are male, and how many friends do you have that are female? I don't know, is it
right.
50-50 mix? Is it
Right.
30-40? Is it, you know,
Works
I
out
don't know.
pretty much the same, right?
37. Yeah. I
Um,
mean, it just depends on what you run into. Yeah.
Cross, does anybody have extraterrestrial experiences that you can share?
I've seen UFOs up in
Hudson
Canada.
Valley, no
Up,
kidding.
no, actually, never
It's a
here.
magnet.
No, all my experiences took place in the boonies of Quebec, Canada, up where we used to have our fishing camp.
Right.
We don't own it anymore, but it was a way you had to fly in to get to it. You had to fly in by float plane to get to it. And we were sitting out on the dock one night just fishing. It was late, and we used to watch the aurora borealis and stuff because you could see it pretty good up there. And these three different things come shooting out of the sky towards a electrical storm that was up north. I mean, these things just immediately stopped right around the storm, then started gyrating around it. They're just points of, you can see them as points of light, right? But they're gyrating around it, and they were there. We're sitting there for just, I don't know, an hour watching these things. And all of a sudden, straight up into the sky.
Right.
What I think, I do believe in UFOs. I do believe those were UFOs.
Right.
I'm not saying they're aliens, but I mean, they're
I've
unidentified
had
flying
all kinds of
objects.
those
There's nothing,
extraterrestrial
I mean,
UFO
I work in the
experiences.
Department of the Army and stuff like that, and there's nothing
Yeah.
I know of that we have that can move that fast and go straight up into the sky like that.
Right.
But I think
Right.
they were gathering energy off the electrical storm, and then
But I
once
can
it happened,
totally believe that. Yeah,
yeah,
there's documentation about things like that. That would make
yeah,
a
very
whole lot of
strange
sense.
stuff. So that's my experience with flying. So my mother though, and my sisters, when they were little, I wasn't even born yet. I was actually in the oven. But
What's in the
but
oven? I love
um, out above our garage. Now I am in Hudson Valley. I live in Rensselaer, New
Right.
York, and it's only a few miles from the Hudson River. Above our garage, my sisters came running in. Mom, we see. It was like during the Apollo, one of the first Apollo
Ooh,
mission, or whatever. And
right.
they're like, "Man, there's the Apollo ship above our garage." And my mother goes out. It's a flying saucer hovering up above. I think really not so much the garage, but the empty field that was by our next to our house, between us and the neighbor's house. And she's like, "That's not the Apollo. Get in the house." And they all just ran in the house, and then it just
Right.
took off after that.
Right.
So my mother had that experience. Yeah,
Right.
it was
Right.
actual, and it was
It's
fairly low to the
usually
ground.
generational, Jack, just so you know, and I'll leave it right there.
I've experienced nothing. I've experienced in
Sure.
regards to that. Unless some
Sure.
of these demonic things are aliens, I don't
Generational. It's
know.
generational.
Yeah,
Tamara says
yeah.
you believe in cryptids. Just as we slowly start counting down
Yeah.
to the top of the hour, do you believe in
Ye-
cryptids?
Yep, I've seen it. I've seen a Bigfoot,
Well, there you go.
Sasquatch, whatever you want to call it. I've actually seen one.
And how was that
Yeah.
experience? Were you in the Hudson
Interesting.
Valley?
Yeah,
Head
actually,
of
yes.
everything?
Yes, I was. Yeah, it was not
There we
far from my
go.
house. I was.
Yeah.
I went out. It was early spring. Is the start of trout season here, so it was April, and it was during the week. So I took a day off during the week to go do some trout fishing when I knew nobody would be around to be quiet, and it was. So I went up to this usual spot in the Kinderhook Creek, and I went to walk down to the creek where I usually fished. And as I get down there, I see this thing crouched on the other side of the creek, which is probably like, you're probably talking 30, 40 yards and maybe another 30 yards down. So maybe 50 yards from me.
Right.
It crouched down drinking water, like slurping it. Right. So I thought it was brown. It was all brown. It's like, is that a bear? So we usually don't have brown phased black bears because I'm a sportsman as well, outdoorsman around here. And then it stood up on two legs and looked at me, and I'm like, "All right, that's human
Trout?
shape."
What do you say to that?
Maybe he was trying to get trout. I don't know, but
Crazy.
it stood up on two legs, looked at me for a few seconds, and then turned and walked like a human off to the woods next to the creek.
Wow.
Now, I never told
Interesting.
anybody about that. I stayed and fished for another like 30 minutes or so, and they felt like something was watching me. So I was just like, I think I'd better just leave. It was that kind of reaction. It's like, what did I really see? When you see these things, it's like, what did I really just see? I don't know what I just saw. Right?
Right.
You
Right.
don't think of it as, oh, that's a Bigfoot. I didn't think of it that way. I'm like, what did I just? So I'm sitting there fishing, thinking, what did I just experience? What was that? And I'm like, I feel
It's
like
pretty
I'm being watched.
surreal,
I
isn't
better
it?
leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so I never told anybody about it. Not my mother, not nobody. Usually I would tell my mother all kinds of things. But I'm like, I'm not going to talk about that.
Yeah, we're gonna
Till
leave that
many
one
years,
alone. Yeah.
yeah, till many years later, this is like maybe 5 years ago, I met Steve Culls, the
Right.
Squatch detective, at an event, and I never knew Steve, and he's a local guy, and he's a friend of mine and stuff now. But I got talking to him about it. He goes, when was this? And I said, this is like early 90s time frame, 90, 89, 90, somewhere in there. And he goes, what did it look like? And I told, he goes, you saw the Kinderhook creature. I'm like, what? I never heard about it. I never really followed cryptids, right? I never really
Name
followed it.
too, yeah.
He goes, you saw
Yeah.
the Kinderhook creature. He goes, back in about 1990 or 91, I guess. There was
Wow.
many reports of this specific creature. He goes, how tall was it? I said, maybe about 6 foot. It wasn't like an 8 foot tall. Maybe
Maybe it was a
6 foot tall.
juvenile or female.
Well, they said this is how it was reported as
Wow.
being about 6 foot tall, brown in
Oh,
color,
okay.
in that exact area where I spotted it. And a matter of
Mhm.
fact, it would often visit this one woman's farm, this older woman's farm, and she'd see it all the time. It'd
Right.
eat the apples off of her trees and stuff like that. It's kind of boonies area. It's not,
Yeah, yeah.
well
Right.
populated area or anything. It's farmland. So
There
he
you
goes,
go.
yeah, that's what you saw, the Kinderhook creature. I'm like, no, I didn't. I didn't see that. No, I didn't see that.
Apparently, it was just in the news lately, according to Barry.
He's like, no, you saw that. I know what you described it to a T. Everybody else saw it too. He goes, there was multiple reports of it at that
Yes,
time.
he doesn't seem to be too shy then. If there's,
No, it
people
was
having.
it would stay unseen for the most part, but people would see it, and
Yeah.
from time to time, and there was quite a few, I guess, I don't know, maybe 20 reports of it. Different people seeing it at the time. So I'm like, wow, okay, I guess I did see one then. If Steve says I saw it, I guess I really saw it. So,
Wow.
so that was interesting. So yeah, I do believe in cryptids. I that's the only one I ever saw. It's the only time I ever saw one.
Mhm.
But I do believe in them. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah,
out
kind of
there.
hard not to. Well, we're
Well,
inching to the
you
top
know,
of the.
it's hard not to. Yeah.
Yes, I guess so. Yeah, so not missing that baby. So as we're slowly winding down the show, tell everybody what you have coming up and how they can find you.
Right. Well, you can find me online at my website, jackkenna.org, which is streaming across the thing there. You can also find me on my Facebook page. Just look up Jack Kenna. I have my regular Facebook page, which ends with Jack NY45, or my other public page, which you can find me if you just look up Jack Kenna. You'll see my face on there. And you can follow me there. You can go onto our YouTube channel of Paranormal Q&A with Jack Kenna and Carly Hall, and see all the past shows we did there. There's some interesting stuff there. And then this coming spring, I'll be teaching the Paranormal 101 course at SUNY Schenectady and the Advanced Paranormal course at Hudson Valley Community College. You can find those online at those colleges, hvcc.edu or SUNY sccc.edu, and you can look them up there. They're under community training programs, stuff like that. Anyways, you can look them up on there and find them. And I do list, I have listed those just recently on my Facebook page and stuff. So they'll be on my website as well.
Oh, excellent, excellent. People are just chiming out as we're slowly getting ready.
And
Thank you guys
if you're
all
looking for my
tuning in.
books, I do have my books out there, Paranormal Research book, which I teach with, and more of a fun read, Paranormal. It's Spirits of New England, Haunting, Ghosts, and Demons, and then my comic books out there. You can find all those on Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. You can find.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic! I love it. There we go.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah. Well, time to sign us off then. So we've come to the end of another fantastic segment. Thanks to everybody in the chat room. You guys just make it that much more fun. So thank you for tuning in. Big thank you to Jack Kenna for coming and hanging out. Been nice to catch up. Big thank you to Folgers. Oh, pleasure anytime. Big thank you to Folgers. Big thank you to Dr. Snick, Justin Snicker. Big thank you to Steve McGinnis. You guys want to communicate with myself or Amelia, please, 2 ways only, the outer realm contact at gmail.com, the outer realm contact at gmail.com, or go over to the outer realm page on Facebook, click the email button. Nice and easy. So wherever you guys are listening tonight, please just like, subscribe, follow, whatever the case may be. We appreciate you all for it. Be a harpy. Get me some Folgers commercials. Come on. I had a lot of fun. Just do them. Do them.
If I drank Folgers, I would. I actually don't drink it. So
Yeah. What? That's it. We're knocking you right out of the chat right now. There you go.
I would drink it though. I would drink it. Actually, I Folgers isn't. I like Folgers.
Like on a banana.
I just don't drink it a
door.
lot. I just don't. I don't drink coffee a lot anymore.
I know. It's okay, Jack. We'll let it go.
Yeah. I like the cup though. I like. I'll pick up.
Okay, the cup will do. Cup will do.
Yeah.
Now for the next week, guys. Okay, we have new blood next week. Wednesday night, we welcome for the first time Bill and Jackie Kusulas. I hope I said that right. Kusulas. I love that. And they're going to be discussing their book, Bridging the Tragedy. And this goes back to the Mothman and Point Pleasant, all of that and things that came in after the fact, how it affected them. It's going to be a really great show. So please tune in for that. Thursday night, for the very first time, is Richard D. Lewis, who is an ex-U.S. Air Force veteran who became a spiritual counselor. He's going to be discussing his book, The Paranormal Christian. Right? But we're just talking about that a little bit tonight. So, right? So keep it in tune with all of that. Yeah, it's going to be 2 really great shows. So I hope you can all tune in for that. So everybody have a fantastic weekend, and we will see you all next week. Thanks for chiming in. Good night.